one board member who might be calling in. He probably had a call, he's on the fire department, probably had a call, so I'm sure you'll get a hold of this, but we'll go ahead and open up the September 4, 2012 Virgin Valley Water District Board of Directors meeting, and the time is 5:03. So the meeting is now called to order. We'll go ahead with the prayer and the pledge. Mr. Buller, would you give us the prayer? And Sandra, would you do the pledge, please?
Our Father in heaven, we're grateful for the opportunity we have to come before Thee as a water board. And we give thanks for this beautiful valley we live in and for the many blessings we receive by being here. We're grateful for this country and the freedoms that we enjoy by being citizens of it. We ask that Thou would bless it, that it may be guided and directed, that those who would protect our freedoms have Thy protection. We're grateful for this valley. We ask that as we meet to make decisions on behalf of the ratepayers, that we may do so prudently and wisely. We thank Thee again for all that we have, and we say these things in Jesus' name. Amen.
Please rise. Pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, we'll go ahead now then and open up for public comment. So if you have some comments or would like to speak, if you just please stand and give us your name for the record. Appreciate it. Seeing no hands, we'll move on and move on to the board comments.
Believe it or not, I don't have very many comments, but I just was wondering about Aaron's hand. We had
Hope it didn't fall out of the razor.
No, it wasn't out of the razor. It was work related. I was up at Nickel Creek doing the GPS survey, and a rock shifted on me, and I just took a little tumble down the hillside and got a couple stitches. None worse for wear though. So.
Okay. I just have one comment, and I know it's been brought up that some concerns maybe about a power increase, what that might do to the water district, because I know it was brought up in the meeting before the city council. I did take a look at and I didn't ask Mary to give us an annual, but our power bill this current month is over $78,000, and that doesn't include the power we utilize in Lincoln County, which is another $15,000, but that's on a separate situation for the wells up there. And that includes all our current wells and office here, and also arsenic plants, the power use arsenic plants. So that's kind of inclusive of all our power uses. That's a 1 month bill. So just thought I would pass that information along.
Yeah, I appreciate that. And of course, I talked to one of the board members on the power company, and he said rates are going to go up regardless. They have to. I said, well, I think that the way they're pinpointed now is a little off. I think if they raise them across the board, that's fair. But just to try to stick them to your highest users is going to be problematic, especially for people here in Mesquite in the current economic situation we're in. So anyway, I think like a lot of people have been trying to do, I think the more of us that can get a hold of the power district and let them know that there needs to be a more equitable way of doing that. I think it'd be behoove everybody in this valley and on all our ratepayers also.
Okay. We've already had the president's comments, and we will move on to the consent agenda.
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda as items 1, 2, and 3.
Okay, do we have a second?
A second.
Okay, motion and second. All in favor? Raise your right
Aye.
hand. Oh. Okay. 4 in favor, 1 absent, so the motion carries. Okay, we'll move on to item number 4, which is for discussion and possible action, consideration of new task order for Bowen Collins and Associates Incorporated. Under the existing general service contract with VirginValley Water District, Water District package for VVWD to use in procuring services to repair the culvert, the box culvert that we had damaged here from the last storm outside of plant 28 with the high flows that occurred in Pulseville Wash. So what I'd like to do on that is we've got a lot of great information here, and I hope that this is in the handout up front there. I'm not sure it is for people coming in because there's some great pictures. And either Ken, let's see, Ken, were you up there, or was Aaron work on that?
Both of us had opportunity to go
Okay,
there.
would you just like to, we got the pictures, could we just kind of go through this and explain to us what where we're
First, I got a question first. Is that our road?
The
Yeah.
driveway is.
Yeah, the problem.
The driveway going across Pulseful Wash is ours.
So the city's not liable.
We built it as part of arsenic number 28.
Okay.
I think when the city deeded that property over, that was to the water district, that was part of the parcel, so it actually is a private road. Okay.
If I can give you, the pictures, if we look at them in a different order, is when it was constructed, it looked really finished, perfectly good, no problem. And we talked with Mike Chandler, and actually the box culvert, even with the increased flows, here's the things that changed. I'm sorry, I'm running back and forth. Is there's more water flowing upstream than initially when it was designed. It was designed actually to have 3 times the flow that was anticipated with what was coming out of the retention basin. But there's now 2 more large diameter drain pipes coming upstream from it. That changed the amount of flow going into it. Even on the large rain event of August 22nd, the flow is only about halfway up the culvert, but the other contributing factors were that the grade below it was set by a drainage feature that is half a mile downstream. When that feature went in, it basically controlled the grade so that the water wants to stay and not climb very fast from there. So that's what caused it to erode right below the discharge of this feature. It was not built with a pool and giant riprap that was concreted in because it wasn't anticipated to have these flows and was not anticipated to have the grade control from downstream, and those things happened. So the good thing is it's still there, that our pipe and our conduit going to the facility, even though they're exposed under the riprap on the corner there, they're really in vulnerable position, but they're still intact. So if we act now, we can get it done relatively cheaply, and we know what to do because Mike Chandler went out there with Aaron, and they know what to do in terms of grade control, creating a pool, resetting that last box culvert piece, and basically grouting in the riprap so that it can handle larger amounts of erosional velocity. Aaron, would you like to add any?
Yeah, from the original grade of that Pulseful Wash, it's actually dropped down between about 7-9 feet from what that was originally spec'd at and engineered for. And so it's that lower Pulseful Wash where they concreted in, that's kind of set the grade like Ken was saying, and that's 7 feet approximately lower than what it was. And this culvert is actually supposed to be able to sand in, and it was be able to convey nutrients and sand and material of that nature to the Virgin River. That's what Fish and Wildlife Service mandated us to do when we engineered this. And so it actually had about 2 feet of sediment within the box culvert, and now it's 5 feet below that even. So it's changed a lot since when we first originally put that in. But yeah, and then, like, expose the conduit, like Ken was saying. That's the main thing, is our electrical conduit's exposed right now, which in the meantime needs to be repaired. And then armor that in to kind of a splash pad for that increased flows in the future and undermining so it can't occur. Bones and Collins kind of has a well-spec'd idea how to do that, and I think should work well.
Am I hearing correctly that really it's only this last section that you're probably gonna have to pull out and reset?
Yep.
The rest of it's okay, so
Yep.
we won't have to dig the entire road up?
Yeah, up gradient, it's still that same grade,
Yeah.
because this culvert has not allowed that grade to continue up to eat away. And so, yeah, it's just that one section of culvert there. You can see the curbing most likely will even be able to stay there. They won't have to remove the curbing there or even the road. They should be able to pull that set out, that one section of the culvert, and then reset the foundation there with type 2 or whatever may need to be, and then reset that.
The comment on the riprap, you know, it's, every time that we have any kind of a flood, that whole wash along there, because it's just basically loose sand, dirt, and there's no riprap or anything on any of it for a long ways above and below. It always washes out, and they always have to have a cat come in and reshape the whole thing.
Yep.
So is there any considerations, anybody talked about maybe having the people downstream and the people on the property upstream riprapping that whole thing, or the city doing it, or somebody doing it? Because it's always gonna wash out, it'll continue.
Yeah, the grade control, upstream is actually not damaged hardly at all, a little bit.
Yeah, it's not near as bad as it is down the road.
Oh,
It
yeah,
washes
so
out.
we will anchor that, we'll grout that in, and in the opinion of Mike, that's not our biggest problem, as well as the fact that the rocks haven't shifted much there, but downstream, look, maybe I'll illustrate if that's okay.
You need to trust me on that.
The
Excuse me.
someday we'll get a bigger boardroom or smaller tables or something. There's the dam here, and then grade to our box culvert. And there's riprap here. Then there's another grade control structure here. The trouble is that the erosional nature in this path is that it wants to set the grade at this grade. So there's going to be a problem here, and that's what we found out. And so we have to, this is not going to be, and here's our road up here. This is where we have to focus most of our energies on, is resetting this piece, and then putting a whole heck of a lot of riprap here, concreting it in, basically, so that, and possibly even creating essentially a pool here, so the water has a place to disperse its energy, and we might have to come out here a ways too. It's almost like the Bunkerville Dam thing. The water comes over and you have to scour it out like that. But this structure is what determined what's happening here. This structure, and plus now we have a couple other culverts here adding flow.
Well, that's the problem with the partial riprap, is that it always wants to undermine, it always wants to go
Yeah.
under it, so.
And this was only 18-inch minus, relatively rounded. It's not massive and angular. So massive and angular costs more, or we can grout this in. So I think Mike's going to present to us the option of, let's grout it in. Basically to use this as a place to press in a lot of concrete relatively not very strong concrete, but enough to hang it together, so it'll flow in and bind it all up there, so we have a pool, because now we know what the natural grade is gonna be, so we know, unless somebody else changes this again.
Right.
The city though, I've talked to Tanner, and all along Falcon Ridge there, there's, they have erosion problems there. They might lose that road if they don't do something. You know, they got issues all along there.
Well, you did lose a big section of the new road up above there.
Did I miss anything? Okay.
Some of the rest of the board, I've been doing all the talking, I'm sorry. You guys have some questions? Comments?
My only comment is, it looks like something we're gonna have to do. And if we're gonna do it, we might as well do it where it has a more permanent fix than a temporary fix. Let's see what the expert has to say.
They gave us a quote for the engineering services, and it was a little less than what I put in this document, because I was on my way out as we got that in. And he said honestly that it's mostly a big backhoe and some rocks and concrete. Not too many days of work. We'd be surprised if it's over 20,000, so I put in 25. And I think, Wes, you put it in 40,000 just to be sure?
No, the only thing we did for the board was the cost of the engineering itself. Once we go to bid on the other project, and then we'll bring that to the board for approval. Then we'll be talking about concrete numbers, not an estimate at that point.
Okay.
That'll be out of a different account.
Yes, that's correct.
At least you have an idea. We're not talking about breaking the district, but if that conduit goes, then things are going to get dramatically worse. And we might lose that roadway too.
I think it's important to be done right, because I don't think we can afford to spend $20,000 or $30,000 every year, or a couple times a year.
Every time it floods.
I'll do it right now. I think Mr. Bowler is right on that. Do it right the first time.
Yeah, if nobody else
Oh,
has.
excuse me, the second time.
If nobody else has and nobody else has a comment, I'll ready to make a motion.
Okay, go ahead.
I make a motion that we approve a task order for Bowens and Collins to prepare design drawing specifications and a bid for, to use in procuring services to repair the box culvert under the right of way to treatment plant number 28.
Okay, the recommendation, I think, called for them to get the bid, to put the bid package together. That would be part of that then as well?
They will put the bid package together, but we can do construction inspection and manage the bid.
Didn't I put that in my motion, to include specifications and a bid package?
Yeah. Got it.
I'll second it.
Okay, we have a motion second. All in favor? 4 in favor and 1 absent, so the motion carries. Go back. I know that Mary hates me. She prints all this stuff really little, so I have to put my glasses on now. All right. We will move on then to number 5, which is for discussion of possible action, consideration of reorganization of the Virgin Valley Water District Treatment Operations Division, and to create a part-time reserve specialist position. Possible actions may include, but not to be limited to, creation of a part-time resource specialist position, and the authorization for staff to provide notice of newly created position in compliance with the Virgin Valley Water District policy. And that's an advertisement for employment. Is that what you're talking about, notice for the papers? Or is that an in-house notice, or?
Well, there's several parts to this.
Okay. Why don't we just go ahead then, and you've got a lot of good information on this, so if we can turn to that, and you want to.
Thank you, Mr. President.
You masterminded all this. So.
That may be an overstatement, but it was a bit of work, and I did have some staff help. There's some easy parts of this. And the easy part, I think, is that it makes sense to restructure the plant operations division, if you will, because having one boss and two guys who are qualified enough to run the system independently makes more sense than what we have now, which is a grade 1, a grade 3, and a grade 4. So, and that'll save us a lot of money if we do that. I checked with the state and I checked the level of our system. Our operators should have a grade 2 because our system is complex enough. So we don't really have any use for grade 1s except as transitions to get to a grade 2 quickly. And we're allowed to do that. We're allowed to give them a year. So that's kind of the easy part of it. And another easy part is that if we go to this new structure, then essentially we have what looks like a very good candidate in-house, Philip, although we'd interview him and go through all the official steps to promote to supervisory position. That means we're going to need another treatment plant operator. So we can look in-house again, but it looks like it's unlikely we're going to have somebody else to want to move into that from in-house, so then we have to advertise and go outside looking for a certified operator or somebody who is so qualified they could become certified very quickly. Those are relatively sensible, easy steps that I think we can embrace and say, okay, that all makes sense. You got to fill your staff positions. So far as for Pete is, once I caught my breath and realized that, you know, what he'd be taking with him, as I was looking for ways to economically keep our programs going, in fact, maybe even improve things. And that's why I came up with this list here of things that could be contributed from somebody who knew what they were doing and had time to do it. And yeah, it's really rough, and I have an $80,000 number there. Maybe it wouldn't be that much, maybe it would be more, but it's a lot of value. We also spent a fair amount of time trying to figure out, could we provide insurance for him? And the answer was essentially no. Is that once somebody goes to part-time, you cannot provide, and they retire and they go to part-time, you cannot provide insurance by our current insurance provider. So he can get state COBRA, which is our insurance extended, by him paying the premiums for another 18 months, but then he's going to have to go to an independent way to get insurance. Even with that, he was willing to do the job for the maximum amount that Nevada PERS will allow him to be paid for half a year, which is that $23.50 an hour. So that makes it really economical to retain him and get these skills, if that's what the board would like to do. So that's the most difficult part of the decision, probably what you want to spend the most effort on. Pete would like to continue being part of this family. He really considers this to be his way of contributing to the community, and the people he works with are part of this family. He could still fill in as an operator if necessary, and keep our conservation program going. The picture I erased up there was possible garden center next door, you know, community center. But mostly, really is to look at getting grants and energy conservation and water conservation programs that we don't have the staff in-house to really dedicate to. We have these ideas, but we can't seem to get to it because we're busy taking care of the day-to-day stuff. So that would be the biggest return on the bang for the buck. If we don't have Steve retained, one way or the other, we're gonna have to get the conservation program restarted with somebody else.
Steve.
Pardon me? I'm sorry, Steve, I meant Pete. Pete. So, I'm open.
Who's currently doing the grant writing now?
We don't have any grants we're pursuing.
So if we brought him on, there'd be grants to pursue, or?
Yes, part of what I included there was
That's
some of
all.
these water smart programs, the awarded grants that seem like we could qualify for a lot of those things.
Aren't there grant writers now that will underwrite grants for a percentage?
we could hire consultants to pursue these for us.
I'm sorry,
No, you, go ahead, I know where you're headed, that's a
And
good
then,
question.
there is a 2-day grant writing seminar in Las Vegas this week that we would send them to if you want to continue along these lines that are proposed here. It basically qualifies somebody to do that. And Pete did write grants when he was a sheriff's deputy.
Well, 2-day seminar is not gonna qualify anybody to write a grant, trust me. It might help them, but it's not gonna qualify. But I guess my whole thing is, for 90 days, I mean, I think we're kind of observing the whole process right now is trying to hire him before we even fire him. There's a 90-day period, he can't even be hired, correct? If he retires?
He could work no more than 1.9 hours a week for that period. So
Oh, per
essentially,
day.
it's really not
So,
worth it.
yeah, essentially, it's not.
That's 1.9 a day.
A day, I'm sorry,
That's a week.
1.9 a day, yeah.
So my whole thought is if he's gonna retire, we're gonna go 90 days, and then if we need him, let's hire him. But let's go through the process that we always, let's not, I mean, I know Pete's a nice guy, and everybody I talk to who works with him likes Pete, but I think we kind of set a bad precedent by trying to hire somebody before they're even retired and, prepare or create a position for them, which is what we're doing. We're not even sure this position's needed. And for 90 days, we're gonna be able to evaluate and see if the people are gonna step up and take over and do the job that Pete's been doing or not, and see if it's needed, so. I really think we're putting the cart before the horse right now, in my opinion.
Well, and we're also at the same thing, we're expecting, or assuming the fact that Pete's gonna stay on for whoever knows how long. And if we've already, like you said, if we haven't even let him go, we're creating a position for him. Who knows what we're gonna do and how long he's willing to do it. Maybe it's better in the long run to go ahead and step in and bring somebody in. Once we determine what's really gonna happen, and he has a chance to evaluate that.
If we do bring in somebody, well, right now, we would not have a water conservation program. We don't have anybody to carry that, nobody else trained. So it would take a year to year and a half to bring somebody to get certified in that, if they're gonna be certified. That's all it took Pete. So we would not really have a program manager for that period. And if we we could advertise and bring somebody on, guaranteed they will cost a lot more than that, because they'll want to have benefits. And they probably want at least a half-time position in order to do that. Or we could hire consultants, which will cost that much more also, to run a program for us.
But there are people out there who have conservation experience.
Yes, so we could hire somebody. We could definitely hire people to fill that. I don't know if we could do it I don't think we do it for cheaper than the 28,000, which I'm proposing for that.
Right.
And then the other benefits here.
So Pete's doing the conservation now and
Yes.
running the
Yeah.
treatment plant?
Yes.
Yes. Conservation isn't a priority right now.
But we're all required to have them,
When is Pete gonna retire? I've been looking through, I can't see.
October 6th.
Yeah.
Look at it, didn't see it, huh?
Yeah, it's in your,
That's right.
I'm just trying to save money.
No, I mean,
Among other things, but also to keep.
I'm not
the
saying it's a
facility.
bad idea, I'm just saying that, I think, like I said, we're putting the cart before the horse, and after that 90 days, if we see it's needed, then let's hire him.
Ken, I also looked at all of these, I went through all of these grants,
Mhm.
and it goes by state, and it looks like Nevada hasn't fared very well. I think there's only 1 grant in there for the state of Nevada. Utah has done very well. But the thing I noticed is that the vast majority, with the exception of one or two of them, are all irrigation projects. There's a couple, three of them that are water districts, but most of them, most all of them are enclosing irrigation ditches into enclosed pipes to save the loss of water while you're transporting water long distances. So there's like 16,000 foot of pipe here. There's another one that's 8,000 or 9,000. Most of them are, the vast majority, that's what they are. Not to say that we couldn't get grants, but I really think we're missing the boat on grants. I really do. But the majority of these, you look at them, there's only one or two actually that are not actually irrigation driven. So what's your feelings, Mr. Moore?
Well, I agree with Mr. Bowler on the 90 days. I think before we create another position, we ought to wait for 90 days and see where we're at there. I think this is kind of the general manager's responsibility to go ahead and do this. That kind of in your job description.
I did put together, I'm not changing the structure of the organization without the board's approval. I'm adding a position. The alternative I'm saying is that I think we have to add somebody or basically suspend programs on water conservation until, I would assume Phil, we have to rewrite his job position so that he has to be a water conservation, or have somebody else do it and restructure the organization. Or hire somebody part-time or hire a consultant.
Help me out here. Our job is
We've had a program in the past, though, that, I mean, we still have the program even without a specialist in place with our current, that's what Eric Byers did, our prior engineer, was set that up. And then we reassessed it a little while ago. Put those stipulations in place, what needs to occur. You just wouldn't have a staff member, I guess, dedicated to it. You'd still have the program.
Okay, that's true. We have a program, but we wouldn't have anybody dedicated to take care of it.
What are you doing here?
I'm sorry?
What are you doing on all your spare time?
That's good.
Well, I kind of have mixed emotions about it, because I kind of feel that I think the same as the rest of them. I know that Pete really stepped forward when we needed him in a big way, when we didn't have the general manager. We owe him a lot of gratitude for doing that, but it'd be interesting if Canyon was here. I'd really like to have his input. Not here, obviously, so.
Well, and obviously it's not a decision that has to be made today. I mean,
I think I'd like to think about it.
We can revisit it, but, I mean, I'm not in favor of the way I'm reading it.
I just think it's hard to make a decision, or that it's right to make a position for somebody who wants to retire. I mean, that would be like saying, you want to retire, but I'll give you a job down the line if you promise me you'll stay. I'll create one now. And that wouldn't, this doesn't seem right. Not that we wouldn't want you or want him, but I mean, that just doesn't seem like the right way to go about holding a position.
Yeah, and talking about the integrity of our hiring
Yeah.
process too, that's something we need to protect, in my opinion.
I'm open to ideas also, I could create a similar position if you want in the future and then recruit for it. Again, we're not going after the grants now. We don't have somebody dedicated to water conservation programs to figure out where our lost water is going to or how to address that. We don't have anybody dedicated to energy, saving measures. We just catch it as we can. We get the right truth. And so we're getting some stuff done. We're just not being aggressive about it.
Just generally on conservation, is this a mandated program or just a program to
as you just stated, to minimize loss of water in the system. This, I mean, this is a governmental where you have to have a conservation in place to meet certain standards.
It requires that we have a conservation program.
A plan or a program, right?
Who
But not
mandates?
Necessarily a.
The Fish and Wildlife, or somebody, is state, or do you know who mandates that?
It's the same people who give us our permits. It's the Division of Water, what is it?
I'd have to go double check. I'm not positive who mandates to have a water conservation program in place.
Or it would
but
be the state engineer,
it's not the state engineer. It'd either be Nevada Division of Environmental Protection or
I think it's Bureau of Safe Drinking.
is it Bureau of Safe Drinking Water? So
Yeah.
Okay, but it is a mandated requirement.
correct.
Okay.
And
They don't say how you have to do it.
you can have a document in place, and that's what's satisfied that currently. Now, take it one step further and have even more aggressive, that can be built into that, but having a document in place is what satisfied that in the past and currently can.
Yeah, one of the grants in here actually for, was Southern Nevada Water Authority. They received a grant for $300,000 and some odd $300,000, and it went towards their, you know, the rebate program they're using on sod, buying sod out. And that program is projected to cost them $3,300,000. So the grant they was receiving was $300,000. So as a percentage, that's not, a lot of these are like 50-50, but that particular one is not there.
Well, all Southern Nevada Water Authority did
They're
theirs, give
just-
them their money back.
They're just doing shell.
Yeah,
shell
yeah,
plants.
that's all I ever done there.
That's how they're doing it. But anyway, I would suggest that maybe we might want to bring this back at a little bit later date. We don't have to wait a month or 2 months, whatever, maybe in the next meeting, we got Kenny in here too, and let him at least have an opportunity to voice his opinion as well. But I would be inclined to kind of go where it seems like you guys are thinking about going to. Not that we don't want Pete, but it might be more appropriate to wait the 90 days.
It's after he's retired, at least.
Yeah.
Okay, so
So
you need a
we need a
motion to that
motion,
one.
yeah.
How about if we table this until, oh, excuse me.
If I may, there's really 2 or 3 parts to this. Some of it you probably don't need to approve, which is basically restructuring, proposing to restructure the operations division. And that part, at least I like your acknowledgement or saying, okay, it sounds like a good idea. You may not have to do that, but that's part of what's in here too, is restructuring the operations division and informing you about how I recruit to make it happen, the money savings associated. And the second part is what we might do with Pete.
I'm glad you reminded us there's more than one part, because I did have a question too on the other part. The other part is the restructuring of how we operate the arsenic plants. And, excuse me just a minute there, I'm sorry.
No, you're fine.
I didn't mean to butt in. We spent quite a bit of money getting those things automated, and I know initially up until recently, we were still grappling with that. You know, they were working, but not at 100% efficiency. Where are we on that? Are they to the point now where they are fully automated? So if something isn't functioning correctly, we get, it communicates back to our headquarters here that there's an issue with the equipment, right?
My understanding is it's better, but Aaron, do you have more information on this than me?
Yeah, for each of the treatment plants are to the point where if an issue arises, it sends out a message either by their phone, or they can log on remotely from their homes if needs be to correct things, so they don't have to go out to the site to check it. They're to the point that, yeah, they're automated. Now there's always things that as treatment operators use the equipment, they figure out new ways of improving it, and you will still see things probably brought to your attention that could be added to it to improve the automation in the future. But they're the point where they function well, and any issues that arise are flagged and, quickly and brought to their attention to allow them to make changes if needed. So.
It's not a lot of flow to be handling, but it's in 5 different facilities, and it's a class 4
You know,
operation because of the nature of our, sophistication of our treatment. So I'd like to drop the 2 operators, but realistically, it wouldn't be effective because we have to go out every single day, and you need to have some backup.
Well, and, my comment is if we're trying to do 3 different things in one motion, then maybe we need to have 3 different items on the agenda, because, I mean, I'm kind of confused, and not that that means anything, I'm confused quite a bit, don't get me wrong. But I guess I don't really understand what you're asking for. You want to reconfigure the treatment end of it, or the operations end of it? What are you asking for? Break it down in layman's terms for me.
Okay, as consideration of reorganization of BBWD's Treatment Operations Division and creation of a part-time resource specialist position. Possible actions may include but are not limited to creation of a part-time resource specialist, authorization for staff to provide notice of a newly created position and compliance with the policies. So I would say, you could say, okay, let's restructure it as suggested and recruit as necessary to fill in this new restructured organization, and then come back later with creation of a possible part-time position. Yeah, it is, and I agree, it is a complex.
So what you want to do is replace Pete, and then create a part-time job. Is that what you're saying?
Replace Pete, delete the position with a person who would probably become his heir apparent, and then rather than filling in another lead position, create 2 people at the grade 2 position. There's 1, 2, 3 lead supervisor. Right now we have supervisor, lead, and 2 at grade 1. What I'm proposing is 1 supervisor and 2 at grade 2.
1 less employee.
Okay.
Pardon
One
me?
less employee than you're talking.
Same number of 3 people, but the state requires us to have a grade 4 in charge of the system, and the minimum level for a shift position is a grade 2. Right now, we have a 4, a 3, and a 1. So we're not in compliance with the minimum for
So
a shift position.
we need to advance one, and
We need to basically, at some point, people can come in as a 1, but at some point, they gotta be within a year qualified with their T2, but we don't need to have more than 1 person supervising 2 others. So I'm proposing that'll save budget money and actually provide more opportunity for people to be T2s that we didn't have before.
How far off is the 3 from being able to take the test for 4? Because I know there's a waiting period or something between.
This is ready this year, he's studying now.
is that Philip?
Yes.
We're talking about?
So he could take the test now. I mean, I'm not asking if he's ready, but I mean, they would allow him to take the test.
It would allow him to take the test. I'm not sure if he'd qualify as being an operator for you. He may have to have another year of experience, so he'd be like a operator 4 in training. But at least he could get the certificate.
So if he were to leave, where would we be then without 4? Would they allow him to continue?
Pardon me?
We don't have a 4 now.
Yeah, actually, Pete isn't even a 4. Yeah, he's in a supervisor position, but he's not even a 4.
Not a 4.
Yeah.
It's only a 2.
Oh, we're supposed to have a 4?
Yes.
As
So we
long
need
as you're
to
working
compliance.
towards becoming a 4, the state allows that if you're making progress. That's how,
We were allowed
I
a
knew
lot
they
of
gave
leeway
us some
because we
latitude.
created 5 treatment plants that didn't have any treatment people. So they gave us a lot of leeway.
Well, it doesn't sound to me like we're complying with the original formula anyway, so why do we need a motion to change it?
Confused.
So basically, what you're asking us is to have you move forward to bring us into compliant with the plant operations.
By reconfiguring
By-
the staff in the treatment section. the positions that we recruit for.
But we're
I-
not changing any policies.
I think we just need to table this and we need to clarify, and maybe have a little more time to look at it. Our next meeting's October 9th. I mean,
What did we write?
Well, no, October 9th is the next one, next month,
After he
after he would
retires.
retire.
oh,
Our next actual meeting would be, September.
18, we're gonna have the
18th.
state engineer here, and it'll be a big meeting. But, yeah,
Yeah.
so.
man,
If
we're
we
not
do it-
complying right now. I don't know what the hurry is to
Yeah.
make
I wouldn't
a
say we're not
motion.
in compliance right now. That's what the state's allowed.
Okay.
Our operators are working towards that T4. That's, they've allowed that.
That's-
So we're not out of compliance in that regard that I'm aware of.
They're-
We've never received any,
They've
that's,
never given us any notice on it. I talked with the board and verified that we should have, that we are a T4 facility, and a minimum level for a shift operator is a T2, neither of which do we have now.
So we need a T4 and 2 T2s,
Yes.
correct? Okay. And that's what you wanted, you want us to make a motion to have those be the positions, right?
It's a change from how it's structured now. Now we have a supervisor, a senior, and a T1.
Since we're already budgeted for this year, how does that, it doesn't look like to me to this that affects the budget, because actually you're
We'll save money.
spending less.
If we hire another T2 or somebody that could qualify to be a T2 fairly soon, that person's gonna be coming in at a level significantly less than what we're paying Pete. So obviously, there would be a net savings for the current budget year.
So you're asking for a motion to approve that we have a T4 and 2 T2s and limit that to the supervisory position, is that what you?
I think that would work. I thought the board would be happy to know if I want to restructure the organization. So,
Well, if it's saving
But
us
you're
money,
right,
yeah,
I
we're
made it.
happy.
I made it, yeah, I gave you a very complex motion. Perhaps it should have been 3 different things or just 2. It's just, it worked it all in my.
I got my mind wrapped around the part-time job thing, and it didn't go much further than that, so.
Okay, you wanna grapple with, that motion now?
I make a motion that we table the part-time position until such time as we can, until, what is it,
October 10th.
October
I
10th?
mean, October 9th.
October 9th meeting, and discuss that further, that we allow the restructure of the administration to be 1 T4 and 2 T2s, or anybody that's fills that requirement or is working towards that. What's that?
Our first meeting will be October 2nd.
Okay, then I change that to October 2nd.
Well, he isn't
The second
retired
one would be
by
the
then, though.
16th.
The 16th.
But that's okay, we can visit about it.
Yeah, I gave you the wrong date.
He gave me a wrong date.
So,
Okay. I thought we were gonna wait until after Pete retired, huh? He retires October 6th.
we're talking about a part-time position, I'm talking about the restructuring
Yeah,
of,
no, this is pretty confusing to me.
well,
Okay, we have a second on that motion.
Because that was for the part-time position. You said to table the part-time position.
right,
Part-time
we're not gonna,
Until
we're not gonna
after
make a,
retirement.
we're not gonna make a part-time position.
Okay, so we're tabling that.
Right.
Okay,
But
I'll
we
second.
are allowing for the
10-2 meeting.
restructure of the organization
16th.
so that there's a T4 and 2 T2s, right? That's what you're asking.
That's your motion, right, Rich?
Yeah, that is.
That's all one, we can do that all in one motion?
Yeah,
Okay. All right, I'll second that.
okay, got a motion and a second, all in favor? 4 in favor, 1 absent, so the motion carries.
Might have to start drinking again.
Not that I ever
Moving
stopped.
on.
I don't know what we did there, but
Mr. President?
Well, actually, I think what we did is we did what Ken, I think, already had authority to do on his own. I think if we read our general manager. Line authority, I think is your authority to do that anyway. But anyway, go ahead, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Oh, that's okay. This was actually helpful because the sooner, if Pete tenders his resignation, then the sooner I can begin recruitment, the less gap we have on trying to fill that, because it takes a couple months at best to fill a position, especially if it's not done in-house, and I think the chances of that are relatively low. So we have to first figure out if we have a promotion within to get a new supervisor, and then we have to advertise and fill the position below. So if I have a restructured organization, then I can start moving ahead on that, so that was helpful. Thank you.
All right, we'll move on to go on to number 6, and this is the board to determine whether we wish to have a date and time for workshop, a regular meeting, or a regular meeting for the discussion on possible change in the VirginValley Water District's charter via state legislative action. Okay, so I'll open that up to the board.
I have a question for Bo. Excuse me. Is there any way that you could put verbiage into this charter that we could change it in the future without going through legislation? If we wanted to make some adjustments to it.
There are certain provisions that you could leave out of the charter that would give more flexibility, and they could be in the bylaws or some other. We're actually in the process of working on the main organizational document. So yeah, there's some things that could be left to that document, so in the future it'd be easy to change. There are some required and significant provisions that would have to be in the charter in order to be approved. But I agree. I mean, I would say my recommendation would be put the information in the charter that is essential, but leave the remainder to be revised, by action of the board.
Okay.
What do you have in mind?
Well, just like, as an example, I'm certainly not gonna think that we're gonna change our $80 a meeting, but I also know that nobody runs for the water board. And I've already put in for a transfer to Overton Power, and I don't know if I'll get that or not.
They pay a lot better, don't they?
Yeah.
But just that as an example.
And they have a lot better trips.
Yeah. And also, I don't think we can probably can't change the makeup of it, because that goes back to water shares and et cetera. There'd be some legal technicalities there.
I think what we're doing now is we're getting into the discussion on that, and what the item calls for is for us to set a public forum so that we can have the public involved. And so I think we sit and deliberate it now, especially since we're missing one board member. It's probably not the appropriate thing to do. Yeah. Yes.
I personally, I would like to make a motion that we set a time for a workshop and give a public hearing and get discussion and bring all the information that's necessary back so we can have a good, solid discussion and get the information from our public and from everybody else and for ourselves to know exactly what we can and can't do and go forward after that.
When do you want to do that?
Well, I think to be able to get the public here, it needs to be an evening meeting. I think it needs to be a workshop, and I'd like to see it within the next couple of weeks.
Yeah, we gotta do it right away.
So.
Maybe we ought to do it an off week of one of our board meetings, so we don't, like I said, it doesn't matter, you could have two things.
Sandra, just to be clear, when you use the term workshop, you're meaning a discussion. There wouldn't be any action that would come from the meeting, but more of just let's air all the issues and all of that, no action.
Right, just a workshop where we can air all the issues, discuss everything, and then we can bring it back at our next meeting. So my thought would be if we wanted to bring it back to the next meeting, our water board meeting on the 18th, is possibly a workshop like on the 12th or 13th of September, either Wednesday or Thursday at 5 o'clock.
Of when?
At 5 o'clock on like the 12th or 13th.
How much time do we have to give for a
How
workshop?
much time?
It still
3
seems-
working days.
3 working days.
3 working days is all, okay. All right, let's do it as soon as we can.
About
What day of the week?
Well, a week from today is the city council meeting.
But that might not work.
So that's
You
why,
don't do it,
that's
that's
why
why
I
I say you
suggested
don't, that's why I
Wednesday
thought
or
that was
Thursday.
a Tuesday, you probably wanna do it on a Wednesday or a Thursday.
Do it the following Wednesday, next Wednesday.
The 12th?
Yeah.
Ken?
If I may.
13th.
I would propose that the notice for this workshop is kept as brief and without putting a lot of stuff in it like I did in your board memo, because I don't know what you're gonna discuss, I don't know what the controversy's gonna be, and frankly, there's not much time left. If this is gonna happen next Wednesday, it has to go out.
It may need to be at a larger setting, and we're probably gonna wanna limit the amount of time we allow everybody to talk, because,
I don't
mean,
think there's anybody getting 10.
although we may glean some knowledge from this, probably all we're gonna get is,
We got
the
our
majority of
right
it's
here.
gonna be gnashing of teeth and
Weeping and wailing.
yeah, fur flying.
Well, will that give you time to give us whatever information you can
Yeah.
bring forward to us?
Yeah, and especially because you guys aren't taking action, as I understand, you guys want to give the public an opportunity to weep and wail and gnash their teeth, so, yeah. For the meeting that might follow that, where you guys would have action on it, yeah, I think that would be even more critical.
All right, I'll second that, Sandra.
So the 13th at 5 o'clock,
12,
I mean, it's the 12th, I'm sorry,
12th,
Wednesday
yeah.
the 12th.
12, yeah.
Are we gonna, I hope that's good for you.
Well, this is just a workshop.
No,
Right,
so-
I know.
Okay,
He
so
was able to
we
change
have a
dates to
motion.
go to the.
And I second it,
right?
Other
yeah.
than he can change.
All right, we have a motion and a second, all in favor? It's 4 in favor, so that motion passes, 4 in favor, 1 absent. Okay, moving on to number 7, which is the hydrologist report.
We've already heard it, he fell off the cliff.
I did more than that.
I think
I rolled a couple times too.
I think he was playing basketball and he finally jumped high enough to stuff the ball and hit his hand on the rim.
That would be nice. If that was a story. But no, I was out there. So at Nickel Creek area, Ken and I have been discussing that. Trying after he went out with Nancy Hall and reviewed our current alignment that we were looking at. I want to re-review that. There's a section that has a higher. The elevation is higher than at the point of diversion. So what that means is either we wouldn't be able to allow it to gravity flow, or we'd have to do a horizontal drill of some sort to go underneath this high point. Looking at being bedrock and things of that nature, decided to look at an alternative, which is staying in Nickel Creek Wash and coming out at a lower point that would not require us any special sections of pipe to be used. If it was horizontal drill or anything of that nature. Went and assessed that, surveyed with the GPS unit, and they sent that over to Bones and Collins to add that to our current map. I just checked before the meeting. They provided a draft. We'll look at it hereafter and go forward with that. And Stubbs, what was it now? Abby Stubbs and Ford provide that, and one of their staff members can use those coordinates and do the required. BLM requires the township and range. It's called the Public Land Survey System to be used, and they'll put that together for us to put in our application. And that's kind of where we're at. We're already at that point, had it ready, and then we've backtracked to decide to reassess the alignment on that. So I would say very shortly we should be able to go forward with that application that we discussed in the past meetings for the Nickel Creek right away. Trying to think what else. Give me 2 seconds here. I guess that was one of the main things. The other thing we've already talked about with ultra wash, looking at that. Also, spent some time looking at some of the other water right issues. But that's kind of things in a nutshell. If there's any other questions for me.
Thank you, though. Try and stay on top.
Yeah, I'll try to stay on the top side, so preferred.
That you okay?
Yeah, me too.
Okay, we'll move on to the general manager.
Thank you. Aaron has more than a couple stitches, by the way. He got damaged pretty.
I heard 20.
Yeah.
There's 3 layers of them actually.
20 all three?
Yeah.
By
There's 10 on
the
the
way-
exterior and then assortment in between the muscle and tissue. So it was pretty deep.
By the way, talking about general manager, do you think the pictures of the wash look bad? You ought to see the pictures of the general manager's house, what that flood did to his house. Pretty bad.
I was a little distracted for a while. Yeah. But
I was glad it was his house. I hate to be rude, but we own the one next door, so.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Just kidding, Ken.
that's okay. You were the lucky one this time. All right. Aaron and I have been working together on this alignment. I do appreciate that, you know, when I had reservations about it, he jumped right on it and got up there. And we looked on Google Earth as best we could to try and find a better alignment, and we were thinking more and more that Nickel Creek Wash would be the way to go. And he confirmed basically that we think that staying out of the undisturbed landscape and the difficulty of having to bore through high points or cut it down so we can have a pass, and not knowing exactly what elevation the water is available at, just going downhill is our best way to take it out of there. And there's existing roadways there, so it's not the straightest path, but it's probably going to be the cheapest and the most reliable. So that's our recommendation. I was 4 days at a workshop for distribution operator training. I'm going to take my D3 and D4, so that's where I was last week. We had just a plethora of applications for our distribution operator. Steve has narrowed it down to 7 candidates. We're going to interview on Thursday, Rob, Steve, and I. Extraordinarily well qualified. We're going to get somebody very good. There, being the small town it is, some of the people are related to the 4th or 5th or 6th degree, but some of us are more than
Contiguity, that's the word you're looking
level of
for.
contiguity.
Contiguity.
Yeah. But we check the level of contiguity on all the applicants.
Problem is, some of them, like Aaron, are related on every side.
Hey, not so much.
Love it to buck.
I think most everything else has been covered as we were going through the agenda items. I will set up the workshop, Mary and I, for next Wednesday. Here. Any questions?
Okay, let's go ahead and open it back up for public comment.
Just a couple things. On the power, I'm glad you brought that up. There's going to be a meeting, the next meeting of the board of the OPD is the 19th. I would hope somebody from the board could come and express their opinion to continue again and to hold a public hearing, because at this particular time it doesn't look like there's any inclination of holding a public hearing. And according to the last meeting, they are.
When's that meeting
The
again?
19th. They do have a teleconference up at the Agava Road off of Turtleback. They do a teleconference there, so you don't have to go to Overton to voice your opinion. But I think it's important that somebody from the water board's there to express it, and please request a continuance, because like I said, it's from their last board meeting, they're basically going to pass this next time, and they're not inclined right now to hold any type of public hearings. It's been offered, but there's no inclination, so I think it's an important issue for them to at least receive public input before, and we just need all the participants to try to pressure them into doing that, so I appreciate it. Second thing is on the alignment for Nickel Creek Water. I was kind of maybe confused, but with Nancy Hull, is she a regulator on this? Is that why we're communicating with her? Because she has some regulatory control over this path that we're selecting?
Can I respond, or would you like to?
You talking to me?
Oh, you guys
Yes, no, the board president, I'm sorry.
No, I don't think she's a regulator on it at all.
Well, and it just kind of confusing. My understanding, she's an activist, and I just don't know why we're consulting with activists on this, when we should be dealing with the regulators on the issues of right-of-ways and or paths for bringing the water out. It just seems a little bit either that or we're trying to pacify the activists against restricting us. I just kind of a little bit surprised at the direction we're taking on trying to secure that Nickel Creek right-of-way. So that's why I want to comment.
Actually, I think that I'm a little surprised that you think that it's just because she's an activist. I mean, I don't understand where you're coming from, but nonetheless, no. It has nothing to do with her being an activist. It has to do with the fact that they've been putting all of this stuff on a big map, and she's been working with the BLM and other federal groups as well. So she has been working with them.
Well, I think
so
that
all she is willing to do for us, and it's nothing that
there are other conservation there are other conservation groups that have ideas on that too that aren't being consulted.
Well, whether they have ideas or not, our idea is that we want to protect our water, and that's our foremost in our mind. So we don't care which group it is. We would like them all to understand how important that is to us. We can't afford not to try to protect our water. So as long as that map's been put together, if the other group puts another map together, we can provide them all the same information with all the GPS coordinates.
With the board and the management working so closely with this group, they add to maybe the credibility when they may not have the best interest of all of the area to all the members or all the citizens of the area, and that's all I want you guys to think about.
Yeah, I don't think the board has been working close with Nancy at all.
I've never talked to her, to be honest.
I have.
Met her at this meeting this one time, but I think he brings up a good point. I mean, aren't we taking those for our use to get our maps done for our right-of-ways? I mean,
Correct,
she's not approving those in any way, is she? I mean, we're not taking them to her and saying, hey, we need your approval, I hope, which is what Dave's saying. I mean, we're taking them to the BLM and saying, these are the right-of-ways we need, right?
When we take our application, that's how it will go.
Okay.
But
As far as having somebody there at the power board meeting, I'd strongly recommend that maybe we send a representative, and I know $80 is not much, but I think it'd be in the board's best interest to send somebody there, and probably I would recommend Ted, just because, you know, City of Mesquite obviously has has already thrown down the gauntlet, and I think the city councils, but I'd like to send Ted if we could.
May have a problem, I've
Make
got
a
a small
statement.
problem going right now. But yes, if I'm here, I'd be more than happy to go.
That's.
What was
what's
the
everybody-
19th?
19th at 4 o'clock.
I think the other issue that needs to be brought up is the fact that when they built their new facility in Mesquite, and they spent $1 million or something on that building, I don't know what it was, but it was a significant amount of money, of ratepayers' money, that the agreement was that they would hold every other meeting here and down there. They need to be reminded that this area here produces about 80–90% of their total revenue. not that area down there. And I would think that the people up here should start, some dialogue with them that, they need to understand who's paying for their operation, and it's not.
Well, we need to all contact our representatives,
So
we
whoever goes
obviously have
down
a
there, I think that
majority on
needs
the
to be
board.
part of the discussion too, that needs to be brought up, Why do people down up here, between the casinos and everything that's here, it's the vast majority of all of their income.
That's why they're structuring the rate increase like they are,
Yeah.
to be honest with you, so.
Well, so-
Anyway, I would like to see somebody from the board represent us there, if
Yeah,
that's
so
okay.
Ted wants to do that, and Ted
What
did
time?
stand up in the
4
city
o'clock
council
on the
meeting
19th.
and bring that issue up. I was reluctant being a city councilman, to be frankly honest with, to bring that up, so I was grateful that Ted did bring that up.
And Ted, I'd be more than glad to be your backup if you can, since we
Okay.
have 2 other board members leaving for DC that
Well, the
day.
two of you could go,
Yeah.
I'm assuming the chamber's gonna send somebody but last time Ann Miranda
Yes, she
came.
will again.
I would think so. I would imagine the gaming people probably will send somebody too, if they're aware of it.
They are. I talked to Randy Black, I talked to Steve Kramer at, you know how much Primex pays in power a month? 200,000.
Yeah.
They actually sit in the board meetings at the power company, and they actually call Primex to figure out what they project their limits on for how much they're gonna bill for their income. So that's actually discussed in meetings, that's how important Primex is to them.
Yeah. And they're not.
So their source of heat for that plastic then, because they don't have natural gas.
It's all
they're using
electric. It's all
All
electric.
electric. They,
It's huge.
200,000, Steve Kramer told me their monthly bill was 200,000. So we definitely need to keep him involved.
I think would be shocked if you knew how much some of these casinos are as well. I mean,
Yeah.
that's big money. I would imagine even your bill is.
I mean, it's money, and nobody wants to pay another 5%.
Economy being as it is, jobs are a premium. Higher power rates are gonna help.
And the biggest problem on the power side is, one note is, remember, all the power energy in the valley comes from electricity. There's no alternative for natural gas, and that's.
I thought Ken was overpaid till I saw Delmar's paying it. 280,000, wow.
All righty, Dave, was there any other?
Thank you.
Okay. Anybody else like to make some comments?
I'd like to, but I'm not.
Barbara, for the record, Barbara would like to, but she declines. So with that, then we'll go ahead and call the adjournment of the meeting. Thank you for coming.
She doesn't wanna use her